And the meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Sweet. Hey guys.
All right. Welcome to the Otherworldly Arts Collective, Artist Conversations. And tonight we are talking with Krystalize Art, also known as just Krystal. And for those of you who do not know Krystal, she's been with the OAC for a long time, and she has multiple different types of artistic background and what she does. But I came back with a drink tonight, so I'm gonna explain it really quick and then she will introduce herself. So tonight I have a wine called Esoterica, and it's a Pinot Noir. And it's so dark and lovely, but it reminded me of Krystal's art only because that I'm really nerdy and I like playing a lot of games. And in a game that my friend runs, we're all like witches and sorceresses, and we go out and we fight esoterics, which are essentially like our own personal like nightmares, essentially. So this reminds me of Krystal's artwork. So, and I'm gonna pour it in my dragon glass.
I'm obsessed with your dragon glass. I need one of those.
This was my wedding glass.
Really?
Yes. Juan has the other one. They make a little heart.
Leave it to you guys to have the coolest wedding.
So, for everyone who doesn't know you, Krystal, can you introduce yourself and can you explain what type of artist you are? And can you talk about a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'm Krystal, and I call myself Krystalize Art, or my art business anyway. And I am primarily a photographer. That's what I went to school for and got my degree in. And I started painting again a couple years ago, just kind of for fun and for therapeutic purposes mainly. And then I started kind of showing a couple of the pieces, and then I like experimenting, so I branched out and tried sculpture, and I do film as well. So yeah, I do a lot of different things, and I also have a product line that I make. So I make like wands and ornaments and potion bottles and stuff like that, because I make too. So yeah. Yep.
So tonight we're going to focus on one thing, which is primarily your photography, right? That's what we're going to do. So when you tell people that you're an artist, because you do all of those things, do you go, well, I'm an artist, but I am a photographer first?
Yeah, well, kind of. People will be like, well, what kind of artist are you? And I basically say what I just said. So I say I'm primarily a photographer, but I also do all those other different art forms just kind of on the side. So yeah.
So when you have to describe your photography to somebody else, like, because that's always like, oh, well, what kind of photographer are you? Like, what interests you when you're doing that? Yeah. And I mean, those are always the loathsome questions we all get. Well, what kind of painter? And you're like, just, you have to go look at it. You know, just like, I don't want to sit here, but like, you know, what's your elevator speech that you usually like tell humans, like, this is the type of photographer
I am? Well, I usually, the elevator speech is so funny, like the idea of actually saying that in an elevator would be really awkward. But yeah, I've definitely heard of that. But my speech would just be to say that I am kind of a cinematic fantasy photographer, and I focus on kind of the subconscious landscape of the mind kind of a thing. I've done a lot of bodies of work just based on dreams that I've had. I have a lot of dreams. I'm really interested in the subconscious and psychology, and like how the two kind of coexist. So we have our conscious and our subconscious, and I like to try to capture what's not there. I'm not a very, like, I like documentary photography. Like, I like doing it once in a while, like going out on the street and just documenting things that have happened, like Black Lives Matter was really cool. But I definitely like to create my own worlds, just because that's what's always bouncing around in my head, is like these crazy fantasy worlds. So yeah, I even have like a I have a name for my mental landscape, which is called the viaduct, which
That's
is yeah, the term viaduct is just a bridge, and it's a kind of like a bridge between reality and like my fantasy mind kind of a thing. So
wait, is that the actual term for the in between of that, or is that the name that you gave for the bridge in between?
um that's the name that I gave to it, but that's what a viaduct means. So that's what I based it on. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So like when I hear other people's like elevator speeches, I think that that is like some of the keywords that you're saying. Cause like, as you were saying, I was like, you made fun of it, but actually your elevator speech is like pretty sound.
I don't
Like,
know. I feel like I went on a tangent.
no. Um, sorry. Okay. So like when I hear fantasy, that's usually like the first thing that like I'm like, okay, I'm with my people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when you say fantasy, like that could, I mean, like being a nerd who is nerdy and likes fantasy and horror and everything else, like fantasy is like this giant umbrella of
Uh-huh.
everything, you know?
I love it.
Yeah, and it's like I'm totally into anything that is this fantastical art all the
Yeah.
time. And but there is sometimes like, through my art life that like people hear that and then they like don't think of it as something as serious as like documentation photography.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that documentary photography is really impactful in terms of like showing the world what's going on behind their bubble or like outside of their bubble, and I think it's fantastic. However, I think that it's also interesting to study kind of the subconscious mind and kind of what's going on in people's inner worlds that they don't really talk about with people. So I actually did a series. I did a solo exhibition right out of college called The Secret Self. And that was kind of, I photographed people's like interfantasy worlds. And I just was like, hey, what is your imaginary world like if you had one? And they would be like, oh, well, I like these colors, or I would be out on the ocean and there'd be mermaids or something like that. And so I photographed them in their like ideal fantasy realm. And that was really interesting to see how different it was and how much thought certain people would put into it. Like some people don't really think about that kind of stuff, but I was surprised that some people do. Definitely made me feel less like a freak.
Yeah.
But like this one guy was like, I would be in this library with like unlimited bookshelves that like turned into like secret corridors, and like I would be dressed like this. And I was like, cool. It was really interesting. And I photographed a child too, just to see what a kid would come up with. And it was really
Right.
cool. So yeah,
So
I like to do all different age groups for sure.
so like the photography stuff that you have now, when you start having like a subject, does that still like transfer? Like do you go, like do you usually have like your kind of envision of the fantasy world that it's going to be, or is it a conversation between you and your subject, like your model that you're talking with? Like is it more of a collaboration or is it all you?
With that specific series,
No, just in general with the stuff now.
in general, it's mainly my fantasy world. So just like um I think that I try to kind of incorporate what other people think, or I'll do like different series about it. But I'd say within the last couple years, I've definitely focused more on my own worlds and trying to bring those to life. Um, and I definitely like to have whoever I'm photographing give me their 2 cents about it and like how they relate to it and stuff like that. So yeah, it just depends on what series I'm doing, what work I'm working on. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, totally. So when you set up for your photo shoots, like do you have a studio? Do you paint some of the backgrounds? Like can you describe like your whole process of like getting a photograph started?
Sure. So basically, I will be, usually it all starts with music. I absolutely love music. I wish I could sing better. I wish I could play every instrument. Like that would be amazing, because there's something that music does that I feel like a lot of like just visual art can't do. Um, but it all starts with like a song, and when I listen to music, I kind of feel like I'm watching a movie. And like I see the whole song play out in my own like fantasy realm. So it's like there is like, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it's definitely really immersive. Like I totally forget where I am. And then once I see that in my mind's eye, then I'm like, that's what I want to photograph. And then I start drawing it out on paper and doing like mock-ups and stuff for how I want it to look. So then I sketch it out, and then I go on the internet, which would be the next step, to design the wardrobe for it. And I use a website called Doll Divine, and it's kind of like a digital like doll dress up game.
What?
And yeah, it's cool because you can kind of pick, it sounds nerdy, but yeah, I love it. There's different like themes that you can pick, like fantasy. There's like a Game of Thrones one. There's like all kinds of different stuff on there. So I'll pick whatever the theme is, and then I'll like, it's really customizable. It's like if you play a video game and you change your character's wardrobe and their hair and their eyes and stuff. So it's kind of like that. So I kind of just design what I want the character to look like, and then when I'm done with that, I kind of screenshot it, and then I do a makeup design. I know this sounds like really in depth. Tell me if I'm talking too fast.
No, I'm gonna put myself on mute because the storm sounds really bad, but like just keep talking about how you set it up.
Okay. Um, and so then I do like a makeup example too. Like I'll sketch out how the makeup's gonna go. And sometimes I'll even do that digitally, like a mock-up of that. Uh, and then I'll draw a map of where the lighting is gonna go and what colors I'm gonna use for the lighting. And then I book a studio and I book a model. And the model is usually, I'm really picky about the models, not like they have to be really um, beautiful necessarily. They just have to fit what I'm going for in terms of the character. So I am really picky about who I pick, and I've been lucky enough to have just so many people volunteer when I do ask for a model online. So it's like, it's really nice because I can pick out who exactly is great for the shoot. So then I pick them out, and then try to get a costume together for them. And I usually do all the makeup myself. So they arrive at the studio. I shoot in a studio in St. Paul called Toast Studios. And I always have an assistant there, either Ron or Alex. They're both awesome. If you ever want to rent a photography studio, I think it's a really reasonable price compared to other studios, and it's really nice. And I've been shooting there for years, so it's really comfortable for me to work with them.
You said toast like a piece of bread?
Huh?
Toast like a piece
Yeah,
of bread. Okay.
Toast Studios.
And it's public for anybody to use if they need to?
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
super cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's in St. Paul. It's off University by the light rail. And yeah, like I've shot with my friend Alex just for a really long time. He's really good at lighting, and he has really good knowledge about cameras and just photography in general. And he's a really good photographer himself. So he kind of manages the studio. And then he has an assistant named Ron who is there a lot of times with me, helping set up the lights and stuff. Cause I got to do the makeup. I got to talk to the model and kind of entertain them a little bit. So it's really nice to just tell them what I want and have them get it set up for me. So, and they have different backdrops. They have all kinds of different props. They have a changing area. It's really nice. So
You know, unfortunately, I don't know a ton of photographers. So like when that happens, like, is that common for you guys to like hang out with each other and try and help each other out like that when like set up? I mean, like, because you're right, it's like a whole stage. It's lighting, you know, it's props, it's makeup, it's all of that. Like that's like a whole team of humans, but it's just you, you know, like,
yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
and I definitely think it's important to credit whoever you're working with. Um, and because I mean, we need to help each other out as artists, no matter what media you're working in. But is it common for people to have multiple people on set? I think so. I mean, if you want to do a really good shoot, otherwise it's definitely going to take you longer and it's going to cost more if you don't have an assistant. And most studios anyway require an assistant so that they know that their equipment is being handled with care and with somebody who knows how to use it.
right, that totally makes sense. So like if I walked in and I have no photography background, I mean, like, I think I had some in college and I was like, I'm going to do this thing. They'd probably be like, wait. Like, who are you? Maybe some training first.
I don't know. I mean, I think that they would ask you what you're going for and try to do that for you.
Right.
I think they usually work with people who do have experience with photography. So I can't really speak to whether or not they do accept people who don't have experience, but I would think that they would try and work with you. Yeah, that's the best answer I could give you because I'm not certain.
So then after you get all the shots and then after you've done all the time, the research and design, then you still have post.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about what that means. Like what are you doing after?
So post-production is always kind of my favorite. Well, pretty close to the actual session, depending on how it goes. But yeah, I taught myself Photoshop in high school, so that's quite a long time ago. And I've just been kind of learning it as I go. And at this point, it's like having a right and a left hand. Like I can just blow through stuff really fast. I usually take all of the photos from the session and I import them into a program called Bridge. It's part of the Adobe Master Collection, if you've heard of Bridge.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. And then I just go through all of the photos and I sort them by, yes, I might choose this picture as a final image that I want to edit, or no, this one is a no. So I basically sort them and then I pick whichever one really strikes me and then I edit that one, usually for anywhere from 5 to 14 hours. Sometimes it's taken me a couple days. It depends on what I'm shooting and it depends on how much I have to put in the background or something like that. I'm a fan of doing as much as you can in camera because I don't like things to look fake or things to just be artificial. So if I can find a crop or something, sorry, I'm getting a dating app notification.
I saw the live stream.
Hey, what are you doing? No, that's funny. Sorry. Anyway, so yeah, I definitely try to get as much on the set photographed before I have to spend hours editing it. So,
Sure.
yeah, I usually don't like put things into the photo that weren't there before I shot it anymore, just because, like I already said, I like to shoot everything in camera as much as I can. But in terms of like the background, I do replace that quite a bit. So, and it used to be really difficult to do that, but Photoshop has gotten better and better, and I found little tricky ways of sneaking one in there.
So
yeah.
from start to finish, like let's just say like the photo that's behind you with your own hair that is turning into fire, or just maybe an average of one of your favorite pieces of art that you've made for yourself, how long does it take you from start to finish, like in hours, to complete one project?
That's a good question. I've actually not really thought of that. But I would say probably, let's see. So the planning stages would probably be like 5 hours, and then let's see, 10 hours. I'd say like 20 hours at least. No, it's got to be way more than that. It feels like way more than that anyway.
I
It
only
depends. It depends.
I only ask because like there's so many times that I think that like, you see a piece of artwork and it exists and it's beautiful and people don't realize like how much time and energy goes into,
Yeah.
you know, failure, but also
Yeah.
success. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
Oh
And,
yeah. Yep.
and like failure is such a strong word to like use in artwork because like, you know, every failure is a learning experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
they only lead us to success,
Yeah.
I mean, like we could fail 100 times at our job being an artist and succeed 101 on our 101 try, and it would
Mhm.
be amazing, but nobody realizes that you had to fail 100 times in order to get
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because I'm sure that there are shoots that you've had where
Mhm.
you've gone through all that time and then at the end you're like, you know what, I'm not sure about this.
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
maybe this isn't exactly what I wanted it to be, but it's like pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there with photography too, there's so many technical errors. I mean, with the lighting equipment, with the camera, with post-production, with just having just a little chip that holds it all together. If that just stops working, then you're screwed. Like I've gotten to set and I've had one time I try to over prepare for this kind of stuff. I had like 2 CF cards and like 5 SD cards, and none of them would work. None of them would work. So thank God I work somewhere where I actually know the studio manager, and I borrowed his and drove it back to his house, and it was a pain. But like on a normal set that you would rent or like out on a work site, nobody's gonna have that for you. I mean, maybe, but chances are not looking so good. So
So what kind of camera do you use?
it depends on what I'm doing. I usually actually, oddly enough, I use the camera at the studio that I shoot at a lot, which is a Nikon, but I prefer Canons, and I'm actually buying a Canon 5D next week, so I'm excited for that.
Nice.
I like to shoot with 2 different lenses. When I was in college, I shot with a 10-22 quite frequently, which is kind of like a wide angle lens, just because it really gives it like it kind of gives it like a weird kind of distorted effect on the edges, which enhances the feeling that it's a subconscious thought or fantasy world that I'm trying to capture, and it just doesn't look like reality as much. So I would use that all the time. But I also like the 50 fixed 1.8 because it's just really crisp and clear, and you don't have to worry too much about the focus being off with that one. It's a really, really good lens.
So first off, I love the fact that you found a tool in order to find what you needed for your artwork, where you're like, this tool makes it the most fantastical world that is possible. Now, going off the 100 failures and 101 is the success, how many cameras have you tried where you're like, I hate this camera? And you're like, I'm never.
I would say I would say like probably 60% of the cameras just because I did go to a fancy art school and we had access to really nice ones. I got spoiled really early with that. So but they say the best photographer is one that works with whatever they got. So sometimes there's times where I've had to use really crappy photos and I've still gotten something meaningful to me. So I think that's important too. I do actually like shooting film and developing film. I really like the developing phase. But that's something that's just actually more expensive in the long run, and it takes quite a bit more time. So that's not something I really work with too much anymore.
So we've been talking about your artwork so much, but I want to show some of your artwork. So I'm going
Sure.
to share the screen, but first I'm
Okay.
going to make sure that I have everything else off.
Okay.
So excuse me for darting around. And I'm really sorry, everyone. I took Facebook off my phone a while ago, and like I realized I can't see the comments and talk to Crystal at the same time. So I got another phone that I can check, and I will I will answer that in just or I will tell Crystal about that in just 1 second, but let's start with showing some artwork first. Okay. So it says that we are sharing, and
By the
Crystal.
way, I just want to say right away that I'm literally in the process of finishing my new website like this week via Squarespace, which I find is a lot better than Weebly, but this was something I just kind of had to have when I was applying for jobs and stuff. So it's a little rusty, but it'll do the trick for what we're doing today.
Yeah. And like I said, I kind of feel bad for everyone that I've had a conversation with thus far, because, you know, pandemic and then the demonstrations and the protests and everything. Like, we've had a lot of amazing things that we are living through at the moment. And
Yeah.
we're trying to adapt to this new world. So unfortunately, like, Crystal, you're part of my guinea pig crowd, and like in the future there will be a Crystal episode 2. So, and then we can show your brand new episode or brand new website then. So I've seen this photo before. This is gorgeous. Can you just tell me about some, like, what this means to you?
Sure. So I mentioned him earlier, but Alexander Just is an incredible photographer. I think he's just incredibly intelligent and really good with lighting. He actually helped me with this photo because it's a self-portrait, obviously. And this was me trying to make a poster for a film that I've been kind of putting together for probably 5 years now. It was kind of like to motivate me to keep working on it, to be like, this could be really cool one day, because that's one of my dreams, is making this film. And so earlier when I was talking about the viaduct, which is my mental landscape, this movie is supposed to be about an artist's inner world. And so kind of my hope is to collaborate with a bunch of artists and have this character who kind of lives in her own fantasy world and then meets other artists who kind of do the same thing, and to have this really like fantastical portrayal of what it's like to live through the lens of an artist.
Nice. I want to get like super art school on you and be like, you know, I love that the two images are looking at each other. Your hair like flows into like, you know, I don't even know if it's flame or if it's light or if it's smoke. Like,
Yeah.
all of this is like, you know, like, did you guys have a fan on your hair when you were doing that? Like, how did
I
you
had a giant fan. Yes. I wanted it to look like, that's kind of my imagination there, not necessarily like, it's kind of fiery, it's like passion, and then there's the glitter, which makes it more whimsical. But yeah, there is a giant fan in my face. So
Love it. Okay, I'm gonna go to portfolios and I'm gonna go to photography.
perfect. Thank you.
And then,
Oh, there it is again.
okay, and I'm gonna just click through.
Cool. So that's Maggie Moore. If you're in the Otherworldly Arts Collective and you've done shows, you definitely have probably seen her around. She's a really good artist. And she also kind of does a little bit of boudoir type stuff. And she was interested in working with me. I was actually talking with her over coffee about a film idea. And then we got on the topic of doing a collaboration for Gods and Monsters last year. And we wanted to do the story of the curse of Medusa. So it's the story of what actually happened to Medusa, instead of, oh, she's just a villain or whatever. So the story of her and Poseidon, and how he kind of took advantage of her, and Athena punished her. And so, yeah, that's what that shoot was about. And she made that crown, which is freaking awesome.
I know, she sold it like right away. Like, the person
Yeah.
that got it was like, they were like, they were so cute because they they ran up and they're like, I really need that thing. So they had their partner stand in front of the podium and didn't let anybody look at it until we came back with a sales sheet.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. It's
Right.
magnificent. It looks like gold. It looks
Yeah.
like Art Deco a little bit. I absolutely love it. And you could tell that she was just on vacation looking at architecture and stuff. So she did the makeup on that one too. So she did a great job.
Okay, let's see. And the next one.
That's I guess I have a thing where I like to shoot posters before I make movies, but this one is called The Ghost Mirror, and it's for a film that I want to do eventually about a witch a modern day witch who has a connection with herself in a previous life. And I don't want to say too much about it, but she was a witch in her previous life too. And so she's kind of giving her advice on how to live now.
This one was also in Gods and Monsters, and
It was.
it's gorgeous.
And that model is incredible.
I know she has such like this look on her face, like I don't even know, like, okay, I'm gonna like just like epic, like I'm about to do something epic right now.
Yep. Sometimes you'll work with a model who just gets what you're going for, and it's amazing. I always play. So, you know how I talked about music before, it was kind of like the manifestation of my imagination or idea. So I usually play whatever song inspired the shoot during the shoot and when I'm editing it to maintain the mood of it. So that's something I'm really passionate and picky about, I guess. So I was definitely playing in some weird songs during that shoot. But the cool thing about that previous picture too is, if you could go back to it for a second. I don't want to talk too much about it, but that dress is by Samantha Ree, and she was on Project Runway. And I actually got her to let me use that for the shoot, and it looks just amazing on her. Samantha Ree uses Tatum a lot for her shoots, so I definitely would encourage you to rent her wardrobe because it's absolutely beautiful.
What? I didn't know you could rent it. What?
Well, I mean, she let me borrow it, but I think that generally, I think generally she would probably appreciate, a rental,
Yes,
But
right.
she put that on her Instagram, and I was like, sweet, that's awesome. I feel so like grateful.
I got to see one of her collections with my friends Tim and Tom at the Black Hearts Ball. And like
Yeah.
I haven't met her in person, but her stuff is just amazing. So
Oh yeah. Yep. Definitely.
So Crystal, I'm totally thinking like when you're talking about the music of everything that is like with all this stuff, I'm starting to think maybe I should ask you to be the one that puts together the playlist for our shows, because it's kind of a challenge for me to do it on my own. But if you got the music already down, I would love the help.
I would love to. Did you see how many songs I submitted for Safe Word? I sent you like 10 songs.
Yes, I did. I totally did. Oh my God. So, all right, then you're totally going to be Gods and Monsters super DJ playlist.
Yes, I'm down. This photo is called Megalomania. It's from a book that I put together, and I actually printed it and everything. But it's called Josephine, and it's about a schizophrenic classical musician. Most people with schizophrenia don't have visual hallucinations. They have auditory hallucinations. But I thought it'd be interesting to focus on the 14% that have the visual ones. So a lot of times they'll have delusions of grandeur, which is like seeing yourself in like a godly way. So this was what that photo shoot was about. I feel like my descriptions for these photos are way too long.
No. I mean, like, think about how much time that you put into every single one, and you talk about creating these spaces and places, and you're having these bridges. I mean, like, and you're also doing something that like you're talking about the fact that like you're also creating cinema with like everything that you're doing. Like I also like want to know what's going on. Like I feel like you do have a stage that's set with each one of these photographs. And it's like, I'm glad that you're saying that these are posters for eventual movies, because I'm like, yeah, I want to know some more things right now. You tell me more things.
Okay.
All right. Let's
What
talk
time
about
are we at here? Just so I can.
we are at 7:36.
Okay. Cool. We're good.
And I don't think that we have any questions right now. Damien
Okay.
says that I've heard Crystal Wolf is also very interested in the health and wellness of fellow artists in and around the Twin Cities.
Yes. I really want to put together like an artist kind of therapy group, just because I think a lot of artists, I don't want to say are like prone to having mental health issues, but they do tend to self-isolate a lot. And I think a lot of artists tend to feel kind of isolated and alone in kind of who they are and what they're about. So I just thought it would be really healthy and beneficial for people to kind of get together and just talk about life and, maybe play some music or something like that. Would be really cool.
You know, Crystal, we can help you do that. We purchased this Zoom account after like throwing Be Live in the garbage, and like you can have up to like 500 members if you wanted to.
That would be amazing.
Like if you wanted to, we can try and facilitate that if you wanted to try it.
Yeah.
I would love to have it. I mean, I would want to be a part of it. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I was kind of inspired too by I work for the Pride Institute, which is a recovery center for the LGBT community, and they have a group called Reflections, and it's basically kind of to unwind at the end of the night, where people kind of talk about, they reflect on what they're going through, what they've gone through, what they've learned in recovery so far. And we play 3 songs a night. And so 3 clients get to pick out a song, and that song kind of describes how they're feeling or something they've gone through. And then everybody talks about it. And it's just a really like therapeutic healing experience for them. And I think that just would be really great for everybody, because a lot of the struggles that people go through, a lot of the pain that comes about, I think, is from feeling like you're alone in whatever you're struggling with. And to find out that you're not is really powerful.
I want you to do this. I don't know how to like underline this really hard and slowly. Like, I feel like, like I said, I try and like have this positive outlook in what's going on right now, where it's like, I need to change my language, where it's like, I am very fortunate to be living in this pandemic where I had the opportunity to reflect on choices in my life, and to be thankful of the fact that like I have very good health right now. And like I am so proud of Minneapolis and what's happening with Black Lives Matter and like the demonstrations and protests that are happening here.
Yep.
And we do have a really amazing art community, and like we might be indoors for a long time, and whatever we can do to like talk with each other, like we should just, and it's like, even, we're doing these artist conversations right now, but that's what it is. It's just a conversation, like the point of this is that I hope people get a chance to see you. And I know our shows are so crowded, like really get an opportunity to see like what you're doing and what you're talking about. Like there is so much, you have so much of a deeper root system that people don't quite get to see like at the event. You know what I mean?
For sure. For sure. Yeah, I definitely want to put that group together. I think it'd be amazing. And I've already been talking with a couple of people about how we can do that too. So
well,
yeah.
When we get off of this for tonight, I mean, like, first off, this is about Crystal, but like I think the next question that people who may not who maybe heard that but didn't know is that, what is the Pride Institute?
The Pride Institute is a recovery center for the LGBT community. We're one of the only ones in the United States, so a lot of people from other states will fly in to get recovery in a place that's safe for the LGBT community.
I love that so much. And so what do you do there?
I'm a chemical dependency technician, but that's kind of a fancy term for talking to people about their problems or about what's going on in the community. And I run groups, and I couldn't even tell you how many things that I do there. It's quite a lot. And I just did my first art class there today, which was cool too. So yeah, I taught them a painting for Pride weekend, which was awesome. And I raised money to be able to teach that because I think art is really good for them, and we get a lot of clients that are artists, so I wanted them to be able to express themselves in a healthy way. And I think that art in and of itself is so therapeutic and so good for the soul, and a great outlet instead of going to drugs or going to something like that. So
And for those of you who are watching, Crystal will always take art donations for her classes and the things that she's doing at the Pride Institute. So I realize that we're in a pandemic right now, and we're probably cleaning out of a lot of our closets and stuff. And like, I feel like, this is an assumption, but a lot of artists are, we're hoarders because we're like, we will use that good paper one day. Or those
uh-huh.
watercolors that I haven't used since high school, like they should probably go in the bin to somebody who can use it better than I can. But
Yes, yeah.
if you do have any extra stuff and materials that are in good working order, Crystal and the Pride Institute would absolutely take them off your hands for you.
Yes,
So
especially brushes, I have to say, because those are the most expensive, and I couldn't afford to get them nice ones, and I felt really bad because there were like hairs coming out, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I couldn't. I was like I had a limited budget, so but I was, like fortunate enough to actually have a budget because they couldn't provide one for me. So
Crystal, I got an extra box of brushes in my closet. I didn't see that you were doing that. I took a social media break, so I'm gonna write myself a note right now. Brushes for Crystal.
oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I really appreciate that.
But going back to your amazing artwork, let's just like move through some of this. Now, this is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
The you're kind of breaking that frame around
Mm-hmm.
here, and this. Did you paint this in the background?
I painted it in Photoshop, so I digitally painted it. That one, like a lot of my photographs are planned like really in depth, but sometimes I like to do what's called open-ended investigation. It's where you do what you want and then you do stuff that you don't expect just kind of on the fly. And sometimes those turn out better than your original idea because you just over planned it. So this was one of those examples where there was just something about the way she was looking through those vines, or the stems or weeds or whatever it was that was just, I don't know, really enchanting. And I had done her makeup all witchy, and it kind of reminds me of like a Stevie Nicks song.
Yes, it totally does.
Yeah,
All right.
I love Stevie Nicks.
Oh, whoops. Let's see. We got a Maggie again.
Maggie again, yes. That was a shoot that she actually wanted to do. Like kind of, she is really good at costuming, and she puts those headpieces together. And so she wanted to do kind of like a gothy shoot, and I was like, I'm so down for that. And so we shot it in a studio on a backdrop, and then I kind of put that background together, which kind of reminds me of Hill House, that series on Netflix, which is awesome. So yeah, I love anything with ghosts or like witches and stuff.
No, so pretty.
Um That was actually a photograph I took for Cole Salon, which is a hair salon that I don't know if you've heard of Cole Salon, but they wanted me to photograph a bunch of models with the hairstyles that they wanted to do. And then I just kind of ran with this picture and tried to make it like really therapeutic. And I made it a moving photograph out of it.
Nice.
So yeah, that's about it about that one. This photograph cracks me up because I had 5 minutes to shoot it. The restaurant was about to open, and
Oh,
it just took so long to get the models there and to get the lighting set up and everything working that I had 5 minutes. So this one's called The Note, and it's kind of terrible, but I had this idea, like, what if this guy was on a date and his date went to go to the bathroom and his mistress walks by and he hands her a note like, meet me later. It's awful, but I don't know. It was just what I thought of at the time.
no, I
Um,
think that this is like classic cinema right here. It even feels very like film noir with all those grays in it and like the curly like hair and even like the little like cutout of her dress, like that
mhm.
feels like film noir. Like it's definitely an exchange. Like, is it a mistress or is it a spy or is it like,
Yeah.
like what's going on here? What restaurant was this?
Oh, I don't remember. It was so long ago. It was in downtown Minneapolis, and that's all I remember. I think it might have been called Fusion.
Fusion.
Maybe Fusion. I think it was called Fusion. But it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And they are just beautiful people. So it wasn't too hard to shoot them.
Another beautiful Maggie.
Yep, that's Maggie again.
You know,
Uh,
I should ask her if she wants to do an artist conversation. She's got so many different things going on.
yeah.
And then let's see.
Oh, you skipped one and I wanted
Oh,
to talk about.
oops. I'm sorry. There we go.
No, no problem. So this is another poster. That's for a film I actually did.
I
um,
went and watched the trailer for this.
did you watch the trailer?
Yes, and I know
Oh,
Natalie too.
you
So
don't.
just a little bit, but like I met her from hanging out at the rabbit hole and I took a couple of her classes.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, you would know them or know her. Yeah. She's awesome. I like had this really cool idea to do a story about two artists who are kind of struggling, when you're like, oh, am I ever going to be able to provide for myself? And then they meet each other and they kind of just have like this spiritual artistic bond, and they have like epiphanies that inspire them to keep going. And there's like an aerial acrobatic routine on a lyra at the end. So we actually trained for weeks and weeks to put this routine together. And yeah, so it was really fun.
So there's something that you said in that I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask about.
Okay.
So for forever, the dawn of time, the word, the phrase, the concept, the starving artist.
Uh-huh.
And every time I hear that, it sucks because like artists are some of the most hardworking individuals that I've ever met in my life.
I
And
know. Yeah.
people don't realize that like most of the time they're the ones that have lots of projects going on. They have
Hmm.
usually they're doing everything they can to keep their head afloat. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and it's hard when you have like a regular 9 to 5 that isn't your art and you're constantly trying to like, on top of everything that you're doing, you're also being an artist. And so
Right.
like anytime that like people like degrade the fact that you're doing art or they degrade your art in price or all of those things, like it's a cultural thing where it's like
Hmm.
you think that artists are magicians and it just exists and you don't
Uh-huh.
realize how long like that root system is.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's hard. Like I think all of us get like these highs and lows with it where it's like, how do you keep going with this fact that like you may not be appreciated ever.
Yeah, and I was in a huge rut at this time. I had just gotten out of college and I had so many incredible opportunities when I was out of college. I knew it was the industry was going to be difficult, but I had worked so hard and not really had a social life in college. I focused so hard on my art and I got so many good connections that I was like, oh, I got this in the bag. Like part of me just thought that it was going to be a lot easier than it was. And so this was when I hit a wall and I started listening to a lot of motivational speakers. I know it sounds tacky, but
No, not at all.
I like intensity. So I would listen to them. And then I was listening to a Lindsey Sterling song called Take Flight, and it inspired the whole movie. So
And you can find, let's see, I think that if you go to film, right?
yeah,
Okay, I'm just going to show everyone really quick. We'll go back. And then
sure.
you can go and watch the trailer here, and you guys can do that on your own time. And if people have not met Natalie, is she still doing aerial stuff now?
She is. She actually lives in Seattle and she teaches art classes at Culture. I think it's called. And so yeah, she still does some aerial stuff as far as I'm aware. I haven't been in touch with her really for the past couple of years, but just through Facebook and stuff.
And she's also an amazing artist as well.
Oh yeah, she's absolutely incredible. She's actually the one who got me back into painting. So if it weren't for her, we probably wouldn't be talking.
You know, we all need that person that's going to like shove us forward a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I think one of the saddest things I always hear from people is I used to do art.
Yeah.
Like you can still do art. And then there, you know, and like I deal with artist block really heavily.
Okay.
I try and move through the things that I have to do with it. And it's like I'm learning when I talk to other artists. Like having artist block is normal. Having like, you know, super crazy focus working hours is normal, you know, like all those
Yeah.
things. The more and more that you talk to one another, the more you realize that some of this stuff is very normal when
Yeah.
you're an artist. It's very normal to work on 7 projects at the same time.
Yes, especially me. That's why I don't really have the patience for painting. I mean, I'll do it, but it's more of a therapeutic thing. I don't necessarily think I'm going to market myself with that, but it's, you know, I think my photography is more what I pour myself into in that way. But yeah, I totally get the artist block thing too.
Crystal, we got about 7 minutes left. Is
Okay.
there anything in this line that you want me to show more
Yes.
than others? Okay, you tell me which.
The green one there,
This one?
the green one. That one's cool too, but this one, that green one, yep. So this one looks a little over edited, but that picture probably means the most to me personally of anything I've ever shot. Because it's what you were talking about earlier with the failure thing. I did that shoot the first time and I was in college and I had this concept. I spent like 5 hours on my makeup and I had all these lights set up. So I had these colored lights and everything. And I was actually on a ladder with a shutter release remote. So I am balancing myself on a ladder and pushing a shutter release remote while trying to get like the strobe lights to go off and then you still to be able to see the lights that are already there, like that lamp light. When you have a strobe light, it usually washes out the light that's in the room, like a lamp. So you have to like drag how long the shutter is released, which means that you have to stay still a lot longer, like in old photographs. So I had to hold that pose on the ladder to see the lamplight, and it was just insane. It was insane. And the ladder wasn't even sturdy or anything. So it was really hard. But the first time I did the shoot, it totally failed. And I was so upset about it because it meant so much to me. that I did it all over again. I did my makeup all over again. I rented all the lights. I set it all up all over again. And I reshot it. And I absolutely love that photo. And I'm so glad that I redid it and I didn't give up on it.
How did you not kill yourself on the ladder? Oh my God, I can't even believe that. So like you, that's not you in a studio, that's you inside that room?
Yes.
That's insane.
So there's a ladder literally like kind of wedged over the end of the bed there. And I'd say it's like probably it's a really high ladder. Those are vaulted ceilings. It was pretty high.
So why not, what made you set it up that way and not set it up like a different way? Like what made you like, you could have put yourself on a different ladder, lower to the ground, like was it, because like that's a really hard light to get. I don't think that people understand like the light that you have on the bottom of the nightgown with your legs and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's super
That's real.
crazy.
Yeah, it was. I wanted it to. The shoot is called Swimming Home, and it's actually a diptych. So I have another photo that goes with it. But it's about like this human who is actually an alien underneath, and they start beaming home out the window. So it's kind of weird. I like 80s sci-fi. Anyway,
Yeah.
so a lot of people think it's like an exorcism or something, which, whatever people think is interesting. But yeah, I really related to the shoot and I really wanted to make it perfect. I didn't have another ladder, so I used the one that was in the garage of the place I was living at the time. So I just didn't have a choice really on the ladder, but I didn't care how hard the lighting setup was. I wanted it to be perfect. So it definitely paid off.
Exorcism.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's an exorcism because of the way my body is and then the cross behind me.
Okay, maybe the cross, but
Yeah.
like exorcisms don't pull you through the window to the light outside. Just
Yeah, but
saying.
I don't think people really think that far ahead though. They're just like, oh, a floating chick and there's a cross.
Okay, let's look at one more photo before we call it a night.
Okay. Probably the last one is fine.
Okay. Oh, that is gorgeous.
That one always like takes my breath away just because that one was one of well, I talked about my imaginary worlds. There were a couple worlds like there's like different places in the world. And this was one that I would go to when I was really having a hard time. So I would pretend like everybody was asleep and like the stillness of the night, and I would just be floating through the air like weightlessly. And like the moon, I love the moon. I have such a deep connection with the moon and the color blue. So it just like makes me feel really relaxed. And I love that I took that picture when I was having a really hard time. So I was actually like going to that place in my head when I took the picture. If that's not too deep, I feel like that's really deep.
No, I think that like what happens is I'm like, maybe as being like somebody who is nerdy and fantastical, like I also appreciate the fantastical and everything. Like I think about how I have my own like kind of visual landscapes with everything. And I'm like, I guess I never thought about going there, like, maybe if I'm having an anxiety attack or I have unrest, like I think I go there when it's supposed to be like moments of joy or something.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Uh,
cool. Yeah.
so in as you are revealing, like I'm reconsidering like where it's like, well, I also have this mapped out landscape. When and why do I go there? You know?
Mhm.
So that's why I'm just being a little bit quieter because I'm like, I'm gonna think about this a little bit
Cool.
more, um, with all of those things. So, but besides my own issues.
No, I'm glad you were talking about that because that's definitely something to think about. I mean, I think it's a really cathartic thing to do. And I think that where you choose to go and when you choose to go there in your head says a lot about you and a lot about even maybe your subconscious and what's going on beneath the surface.
And, like you don't, like I said, like I think a lot of times that a really great thing about doing these artist conversations is we get like that extra step in like what you're doing and stuff. And it's like art is supposed to be contemplative and like this is live. So like, I'm asking you, like I'm thinking and I'm asking these questions like as I'm doing it. And so like, like just know that it took me a second to be like, as you're talking about it, you're making me take a step back and reconsider things in my life, which is, this is what art should be doing. Art moves us into other places.
Yeah, that's literally in my artist statement, what you just said, that you were challenged to think about. So, yay,
Woohoo!
I'm doing it. No. But yeah, great.
I know we're at the end of the time, so like there's one last little bit that I just want to like at least get in there, is that for everyone else that like, and I'm going to just say during the pandemic, and I know a lot of us are still doing quarantining and doing the things that we can, so like there may not be a lot of events in the near future. So how do you want people to contact you and talk to you during this time?
Well, like I said, I'm about to launch my new website. So on there will be all my contact information, or you could just do an entry on the entry form page on my website, or you can email me, or you can go on my Facebook page, Krystalize Art, or if you're friends with me personally, Crystal Wolf is my normal Facebook page. So really any way you want to contact me, as long as it's not creepy, I don't care.
And so I know that you were doing commissions for a little while too, of like, doing these sets up, these like sets and everything. For you had like a God, I don't even know when that was, like 6 months ago or something, that like you were doing warrior women and you were
Oh yeah.
doing the different sets and things like that. And I realize
Mhm.
it's a pandemic, but are you taking commissions now if people wanted to do that, or are you like not at the moment?
I am. I just did a big shoot yesterday, actually. It wasn't a commission, but I'm definitely taking commissions. The studio that I use is open, and I can definitely have everybody wear a mask if they're more comfortable with that. But yeah, I can definitely do commissions.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's gonna probably be our time for the night, because I'm trying to keep these to an hour, because if they're to an hour, then I can load them in other places. So
Yeah, that would be so long for people to listen to me ramble.
and, I hear people like they're like, I come in and out or I watch later, and like, this is supposed to be a casual thing. But is there
Mhm.
anything else that you want to add for the very end?
Um, hmm. Um, No, I just want to thank you, like I said before, and Juan, like I'm so grateful that you guys are doing this. I think it's awesome, and it's a great way for artists to connect, and you guys just give us so many opportunities, and I'm really appreciative of that. And yeah, anyway, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you though too. I mean, without you, we can't do this. So,
Yeah,
but I hope you have a wonderful Sunday and enjoy the rain.
I will definitely. It's like ASMR live.
Nice. All right. Let's see, I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'm gonna 5, 4, 3, 2. Goodbye, Crystal. I'll talk to you later.
Bye. Have a good night, Danielle, and you guys.
Bye.
Okay, take care.
See ya.